The morning my husband left for Alaska, I cried so hard people at the airport stared. They thought I was heartbroken. I let them think that. I clung to Daniel's jacket like I couldn't breathe without him. My mascara smeared perfectly down my cheeks. My voice trembled when I whispered, "2 years is such a long time." Daniel smiled softly, brushing my hair back. "It's for us, Emma. 2 years in Anchorage, double salary. We'll finally have the dream house. No more financial stress." Dream house. That was ironic, because by the time he stepped off that plane in Alaska, our marriage was already dead. He just didn't know it yet. 2 years earlier, I thought I had the perfect life. We lived in Denver, Colorado. Cute suburban neighborhood, white fence, 2 SUVs in the driveway, joint savings account with $375,000, the result of careful planning, no kids yet, and both of us working solid corporate jobs. Daniel was a financial consultant. I worked remotely as a marketing strategist. We weren't rich, but we were stable. Or so I believed, until the night I borrow his iPad. That's how it always starts, right? Something small, something innocent. His phone was charging in the kitchen, so I grabbed his iPad from the couch to order groceries. When I opened Safari, a messaging app was already logged in. A message popped up. "Can't wait until she's out of the picture. 2 years will be perfect." My stomach dropped. Out of the picture? I didn't even need to scroll. Her name was Vanessa, 26, blonde, fitness trainer, living in Seattle. I knew because I clicked her profile. I read everything. 6 months of messages, plans, jokes about old married life, complaints about me being too emotional, discussions about him taking a remote consulting contract in Alaska. My chest tightened when I read the sentence that changed me forever. "When I'm gone, she'll rely on the savings. I'll transfer what I need slowly. By the time I file, she won't see it coming." File? File what? Divorce. He wasn't leaving for opportunity. He was leaving to quietly dismantle me. I didn't confront him. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. Not then. Instead, I became the best actress of my life. I cooked his favorite meals. I supported the amazing career opportunity. I helped him compare rental apartments in Anchorage. And I hired a lawyer. A very good one. Her name was Patricia Monroe. Sharp, calm, ruthless when necessary. "Do you want revenge?" she asked me during our first meeting. "Or do you want security?" "Security," I answered. She nodded. "Then we move first." Here's what Daniel didn't realize. The $375,000 savings account? It was joint, legally shared, but most of it came from my inheritance, money my grandmother left me. We had mixed funds over time. That was his mistake, because in Colorado, once divorce is filed, asset division freezes movement. But before filing, different story. Patricia laid it out clearly. If he's planning to drain you over 2 years, you have every right to protect your share now. Protect. Such a gentle word for what I was about to do. Fast forward to the airport. Daniel kissed me goodbye. "I'll visit every 3 months," he promised. I smiled through tears. "I'll miss you every second." That part wasn't entirely a lie. I would miss who I thought he was. As soon as his plane departed, I went to the parking lot. I didn't go home. I drove straight downtown, to our bank. My hands didn't shake when I sat with the account manager. I'd like to transfer my share of the joint savings account into a separate account. She verified identification. No drama, no alarms, just numbers moving quietly across a screen. $375,000. Transferred. Every cent. By the time Daniel landed in Anchorage, our joint account balance read $142.16 for groceries. That night, he texted me, "Made it safely. Love you." I responded, "Love you too. Always." Then I blocked Vanessa. Not from his account, from mine, because I didn't need to read anything else. The next morning, Patricia filed for divorce. But here's where the story gets interesting, because Daniel didn't panic. He didn't rage. He didn't even call. For 3 days. On the 4th day, my phone rang. Alaska area code. I answered. "Emma." His voice was calm. Too calm. "Why is the savings account empty?" I took a slow breath. I was protecting myself. Silence. Then a soft laugh. "You think you're smarter than me?" I leaned back in my chair. For the first time, yes. He exhaled sharply. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life." Click. He hung up. And that's when I realized he wasn't bluffing. 2 days later, I received something in the mail. Not from Daniel, from the IRS. And my blood ran cold because someone had reported irregularities tied to my freelance income, a formal audit notice, with potential penalties attached. Daniel knew my financial details. He handled our tax filings. He knew exactly how to hurt me without touching me. And suddenly, this wasn't just divorce. It was war. The IRS letter didn't scare me. It infuriated me. There's a difference. Fear makes you freeze. Anger makes you strategic. And I had already decided I would never be the woman who froze again. The audit notice accused me of inconsistencies in reported freelance income over the past 3 years. 3 years! That's how long Daniel had been handling our joint tax filings. 3 years of him double-checking my numbers. 3 years of him saying, "Don't worry, babe, I've got it." I forwarded the letter to Patricia immediately. She called me within the hour. "Did you personally file the returns?" "No, Daniel did." Silence. Then, "Good." "Good?" "Yes," she continued, "because if he filed jointly and manipulated documentation without your knowledge, that becomes a very different legal situation." A different situation. The kind that could turn ugly? That night, Daniel called again. This time, he didn't pretend. "You should have left the money alone," he said. "You shouldn't have planned to drain me for 2 years," I replied. A pause, then a low chuckle. "You really went through my messages?" "I went through everything." His voice hardened. "You think a judge is going to look kindly on you emptying a joint account? I didn't empty it. I secured my half. You took all of it. Prove it wasn't mostly my inheritance." Silence again. He hadn't expected that. But here's what he didn't know. Before transferring a single dollar, Patricia had me print every deposit record going back 5 years. My grandmother's inheritance wire transfer, clearly documented. My bonuses, documented. His contributions, smaller. Not insignificant, but smaller. And in a community property state, paper trails matter. Still, the IRS notice bothered me. Daniel wasn't impulsive. He was calculated, which meant the audit wasn't emotional revenge. It was part of a plan. So I did something he never expected. I called a forensic accountant. If we were going to war, I wanted every weapon. His name was Marcus Hale, mid-40s, former federal financial crimes analyst. Quiet, intense, the kind of man who noticed details most people missed. We met in a glass-walled office downtown. "I need to know if my husband moved money before he left," I told him. "Do you suspect he did?" "I suspect he's been preparing to leave me for longer than I realized." Marcus nodded once. "Give me full access." 3 days later, he called. His tone was different. "Emma, when did Daniel first mention Alaska?" "About 8 months ago." "He opened a separate LLC 11 months ago." My stomach tightened. "What?" In Delaware, consulting shell company. He's been routing side income through it. How much? Marcus exhaled slowly. Over the last year, roughly $214,000. The room felt smaller. That's impossible. It's very possible. He sent the documentation while we were on the phone. Wire transfers, corporate invoices, offshore holding account inquiries. Offshore? My pulse pounded in my ears. He was building an exit, Marcus said calmly. Alaska was just physical distance. The money was already moving. That night, I didn't cry. I poured a glass of wine, sat alone in my kitchen, and replayed every memory of the last year. The late-night client calls, the sudden gym obsession, the new cologne, the emotional distance. He wasn't falling out of love. He was reorganizing assets. The next morning, I sent Daniel a single message. I know about the LLC. 5 minutes passed, 10. Then my phone rang. How did you? Delaware is public record. You hired someone. Yes, you're making this worse. No, I said calmly. I'm making this fair. His breathing grew heavier. You have no idea what you're doing. Oh, I do. And then I delivered the line I'd been saving. I'm filing for a financial discovery. Silence. For the first time since this started, he sounded nervous. But the real twist came that evening. There was a knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened it, I froze. She was younger than I imagined. Vanessa. Blonde, athletic, nervous, standing on my porch in Denver. You're supposed to be in Seattle, I said flatly. She swallowed. We need to talk. We? Interesting choice of words. I don't talk to women sleeping with my husband. Her face flushed. He told me you already knew. I do. And he told me you took the savings. I protected myself. You looked shaken. Not smug, not victorious. Shaken. You need to know something, she whispered. Make it quick. He's not just divorcing you. A cold chill slid down my spine. What do you mean? She hesitated, then said 5 words that changed everything. He's being investigated. My heartbeat stopped. For what? Federal contract fraud. Suddenly, the LLC made sense. The offshore inquiries, the Alaska relocation. This wasn't just about cheating. This was about running. And if federal investigators were involved, being his wife, even separated, could drag me into something much bigger. Vanessa's eyes filled with panic. They contacted him 2 weeks before he left. And you're telling me this because if he goes down, he'll take everyone with him. Everyone, including me. After she left, I called Patricia immediately. Her voice sharpened when I explained. Do not contact him again. We move fast. Tomorrow morning, we file for immediate financial separation and protective disclosure. Protective disclosure? If federal investigators are circling, we cooperate first. Cooperate first? Beat him to the door? That night, Daniel texted me again. You really want to destroy both of us. I stared at the screen, then typed, You started this. He replied instantly, You have no idea what I'm capable of. I set my phone down. For the first time since the airport, I felt something other than anger. I felt danger. Because men who say that, men who feel cornered, they don't play fair. And somewhere in Alaska, my husband wasn't just losing control of his marriage, he was losing control of everything.
I knew it wasn't Daniel the second I heard the knock. It was too controlled, too official. 3 firm taps. Measured. Patient. When I opened the door, 2 men stood on my porch. Dark jackets, clean haircuts, calm eyes. Emma Whitmore? The taller one asked. Yes. I'm Special Agent Carter. This is Special Agent Ruiz. The letters on the badge flashed under the porch light. FBI. And just like that, the air left my lungs. They didn't barge in. They didn't threaten. They simply asked, May we come inside? I stepped aside. This was the moment Patricia had warned me about. Cooperate first. Beat him to the door. We sat at my dining table, the same table Daniel and I once planned our dream future on. How long has your husband been working in financial consulting? Agent Carter asked. 10 years. And when did he accept the Alaska contract? 8 months ago. They exchanged a look. Agent Ruiz opened a folder. Inside were documents I recognized immediately: the Delaware LLC, bank routing records, federal infrastructure contracts, and a word that made my stomach twist: misappropriation. He's suspected of rerouting government contract funds through shell entities, Carter said calmly. How much? I whispered. Ruiz looked directly at me. North of $2.8 million. The room tilted. $2.8 million. Daniel hadn't just been building an exit. He'd been building a crime. We need to know, Carter continued. Were you aware of any additional accounts? No. Did you sign off on any corporate filings? No. Did you benefit financially from those funds? No. That last one stuck. Did I benefit? Technically, no. But we shared a lifestyle built on money, and money can be traced. Ruiz closed the folder slowly. Mrs. Whitmore, if you cooperate fully, we can distinguish you from this. If. I swallowed. I want nothing to do with whatever he's involved in. Carter nodded once. Then we suggest you formally separate your financial liability immediately. Already in motion. Thank God for Patricia. After they left, I sat alone in silence. $375,000 suddenly felt small. Petty, even. This wasn't about draining a joint savings account anymore. This was federal prison territory. And if Daniel felt cornered before, now he was desperate. Desperate men are dangerous. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Alaska area code. I stared at it. Let it ring once, twice, then answered. You talked, Daniel said flatly. Not a question, an accusation. I told the truth. You don't understand what's happening. I understand enough. His breathing was sharp, uneven. You think they care about you? You're attached to me. You always will be. Not legally, I said. Not for long. He laughed, but it wasn't the confident laugh from before. It was strained. You took my leverage. Your leverage? The savings, the fallback. So that's what it was. The $375,000 wasn't just revenge protection. It was his emergency escape fund. And now, I asked calmly? Silence. Then, you just made yourself a liability. Click. He hung up. That night, Marcus, the forensic accountant, called again. Emma, there's something else. Of course there was. What now? A safety deposit box, opened 6 months ago. Where? Alaska. My pulse spiked. In his name? Yes. But here's the problem. What? You're listed as secondary authorized access. My blood ran cold. I had never been to Alaska, never signed anything there, which meant he forged it, or he planned something worse. The next morning, Patricia filed an emergency motion declaring financial fraud, identity misuse, and spousal separation due to criminal investigation. We moved fast, faster than Daniel expected. But then something happened I didn't anticipate. Vanessa called, crying. He's spiraling, she said breathlessly. Not my concern. You don't get it. He thinks someone tipped the feds before you. That caught my attention. What? He's convinced someone inside his firm betrayed him. Good. Let him be paranoid. But then she said something that made my skin prickle. He mentioned your name. My chest tightened. In what context? He said if he's going down, he won't go alone. That afternoon, my bank flagged an attempted login from Alaska. Someone was trying to access my newly separated account. Failed attempt, then another, then a password reset request. He wasn't just desperate, he was reckless. I called the bank immediately and froze everything. Then I called Patricia. We may need a restraining order, she said firmly. I think he's losing control. No, she corrected gently. He already lost it. 2 days later, news broke. Local Denver headline. Financial consultant linked to federal infrastructure fraud. No name released yet, but it was coming. I knew it, and Daniel knew it, which meant the clock was ticking. That evening, as I locked my front door, I noticed something strange. My porch light was on. I never leave it on. And there, taped to my door, was a small envelope. No stamp, no address, just my name. Inside was a single flash drive and one handwritten note. You should see what he saved. No signature, no explanation, just that. My hands trembled as I carried it inside. I stared at the flash drive for a full minute. This could be evidence, or a trap. But curiosity is powerful, and I needed answers. I plugged it into my laptop. A single folder opened, labeled Insurance. Inside were videos, screen recordings, financial spreadsheets, and one file that froze my blood, a video of Daniel talking about me. I stared at the screen for a full 30 seconds before pressing play. Daniel appeared sitting in what looked like a rental apartment. Neutral walls, dim lighting, a glass of whiskey in his hand. He looked tired, not polished, not controlled, just exposed. He leaned closer to the camera. "If you're watching this," he began, "it means something went wrong." My pulse hammered. "This is my insurance file. If the firm turns on me, if Vanessa turns on me, or if Emma finds out sooner than planned." He paused. "Then I need leverage." Leverage. My stomach twisted. He continued. "Emma doesn't know about the secondary routing accounts. She doesn't know I listed her as beneficiary on the Anchorage box." Beneficiary. Not authorized access. Beneficiary. Meaning if something happened to him, everything in that box legally passed to me. Why? I kept watching. If they try to pin the federal transfers entirely on me, I can prove she had proximity to the accounts. Joint filings, shared devices, access trails. I felt like I couldn't breathe. He was building a contingency plan, not just to escape, to redirect blame. "She's smart," he said in the video, "but she's emotional. If she reacts, she'll make mistakes, and mistakes create paper trails." My hand slowly closed into a fist. He underestimated one thing. I wasn't emotional anymore. I was methodical. The video ended, but there were more files. Spreadsheets detailing diverted federal funds, encrypted wallet references, recorded phone calls with someone listed only as R. And then, the final folder, labeled Exit Strategy. Inside was a PDF document, a timeline, 2-year projection, month-by-month breakdown of asset relocation, stage separation, and final offshore transfer totaling $4.3 million. At month 18, file for divorce citing emotional instability, offer settlement under pressure. Emotional instability. That was going to be my role in his story. The unstable wife. The convenient scapegoat. I immediately called Patricia. She came over instead of talking on the phone. When she finished reviewing the files, her expression changed from professional calm to sharp focus. "This," she said quietly, "is attempted conspiracy to defraud and premeditated financial framing." He planned to blame me. Yes, and the safety deposit box. She leaned back. That's his panic vault. Meaning, if he gets arrested suddenly, he needs someone legally able to retrieve whatever's inside. Why me? Because a spouse has stronger legal positioning than a girlfriend. Vanessa wasn't insurance. I was. But here's the bigger question, Patricia continued. Who sent you this? Exactly. The flash drive didn't mail itself, and the note was handwritten. You should see what he saved. That wasn't Vanessa's style. Too composed, too careful. Which left one possibility. Someone inside his firm. Someone who wanted him exposed. But why give it to me? Unless they knew I'd use it. The next morning, Agent Carter called. We need to speak again. I have something you'll want, I replied calmly. There was a brief silence. What kind of something? Video confession level something. He didn't hesitate. Meet us at the Federal Building. Bring everything. When I handed over the flash drive, Carter's expression tightened as he scanned the first video. This changes the timeline, he muttered. Ruiz looked at me carefully. Do you realize this positions you as a cooperating witness? Yes, which means he will know you handed this over. I figured. Carter closed the laptop slowly. He's not going to take that well. I already knew that. That evening, Daniel called again. But this time, he didn't accuse. He didn't threaten. He sounded broken. They raided the office. My heart skipped. They have internal emails, server backups. Good. Did you give them something? He asked. I didn't answer immediately. Then, yes. Long silence. Then a bitter laugh. So that's it. That's it. You just destroyed me. No, said quietly. You built this. His voice cracked for the first time since Alaska. You think you'll walk away clean? I'm cooperating. You're attached to every filing, every year. Not anymore. He exhaled slowly. You were supposed to stay predictable. There it was. That was his real mistake. He thought I would cry, beg, wait. Instead, I moved. 3 days later, federal charges were officially filed. His name hit the news. Daniel Langmore. Financial conspiracy, fraud, misappropriation of federal funds. And just like that, my husband became a headline. Vanessa disappeared from social media. His firm released a statement distancing themselves, and Anchorage authorities froze the safety deposit box, meaning whatever was inside was now evidence. But the story wasn't over, because that night I received a text, not from Daniel, from an unknown number. One sentence. You were never the target. I stared at it, cold creeping up my spine. If I wasn't the target, then who was? And what exactly had Daniel gotten himself into? Because fraud is one thing, but the scale, the offshore accounts, the coded phone calls, that felt bigger, more organized, more dangerous. And suddenly, my revenge story had turned into something else entirely.
You were never the target. I read the message at least 20 times. Unknown number, no location traceable, burner phone. I didn't reply. Because by now I understood something very clearly. When powerful people panic, they don't send random warnings. They send signals. Not corporate, not digital. Handwritten. Ruiz took over the call. The name R appears repeatedly. I lean against the kitchen counter. Do you know who R is? We do now. There was a pause. Richard Halbrook. The name hit me like a shockwave. Not because I knew him personally, but because I knew the name. Halbrook Infrastructure Group. Multi-state federal contractor. Government defense logistics. Big money. Serious money. The kind of company that doesn't make mistakes. The kind that doesn't get investigated unless something goes very wrong. You're saying Daniel wasn't the mastermind, I whispered. No, Carter said calmly. He was the financial architect. Architect, not leader, which meant someone above him approved everything. And if Daniel had documentation, he wasn't just stealing, he was collecting leverage. Why would he keep a handwritten letter? I asked. Insurance, Ruiz replied. Digital files can disappear. Paper can't be remotely erased. Suddenly, the text made sense. You were never the target. If Daniel was holding evidence against Halbrook, then Daniel was the liability, not me. That afternoon, news exploded nationally. Senior consultant linked to federal contract scheme. Then an update. Investigation expands to major infrastructure executive. Richard Halbrook's company stock dropped 18% in hours. Now I understood the panic. This wasn't about $2 million. It was about a network. And Daniel? Daniel got greedy. Greedy men forget hierarchy. Vanessa called again. Her voice was shaking. He told me if anything happened, I should leave the country. Did he explain why? He said he had files that could bury powerful people. Files. The flash drive. The ledger. The videos. He wasn't preparing to disappear from me. He was preparing to disappear from them. Alaska wasn't a job. It was distance. Strategic distance. That evening, my phone rang again. Daniel. I almost didn't answer. But I did. His voice was different now. No arrogance, no threats. Just exhaustion. They're building a case against Halbrook, he said quietly. I know. You gave them everything. Yes. He exhaled slowly. You don't understand what you stepped into. Then explain. Silence. Then, I was supposed to reroute small percentages, clean margins, quiet transfers. But Halbrook expanded the numbers. He wanted bigger diversions, faster. So you kept records. Yes. For protection? For survival. His voice cracked. I wasn't going to let them bury me alone. And suddenly, I saw it clearly. Daniel wasn't innocent, but he also wasn't fully in control. He was ambitious. Halbrook was ruthless. You told someone I wasn't the target, I said carefully. Long pause. You weren't. Then who was? Me.
The word lingered in the silence. They were going to let the audit escalate, he continued, then shift attention to the joint filings. Make it look like we both manipulated returns. So the IRS notice wasn't Daniel's idea. It was pressure. From above. They were testing how I'd react. If I panicked, if I transferred money recklessly, if I made a suspicious move, they'd build a narrative. But I didn't panic. I hired professionals, and that changed the board. They'll offer me a deal, Daniel said. Will you take it? I don't know if I'll have a choice. And for the first time since this started, I didn't feel anger. I felt clarity. Daniel betrayed me, planned to leave me, prepared to manipulate me. But somewhere along the way, he also got in over his head. And powerful men don't forget liability. 2 weeks later, federal indictments were issued. Richard Halbrook, 3 executives, and Daniel Whitmore. But Daniel's charges were different. Reduced. Cooperating witness. He took the deal. He gave them everything. Emails, wire confirmations, internal approvals, the ledger, the real story. And just like that, the case shifted from fraud to federal conspiracy. 6 months later, I sat in a courtroom. Divorce finalized. Financial separation complete. No criminal liability attached to my name. Daniel entered from a side door. Thinner. Older. Eyes tired. He didn't look at me at first. But when he did, there was no anger. Just something like regret. After the hearing, he spoke quietly. I never meant for you to get dragged into it. You already dragged me. I replied calmly. I know. Silence hung between us. You surprised me, he admitted. That was the point. He nodded once. They'll sentence me next month. How long? 5 to 7. Prison. 5 to 7 years. For greed. For ambition. For trying to play both sides. As he was escorted away, I didn't cry. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt free. Not because he lost, but because I refused to be predictable. He thought I would wait. He thought I would break. He thought I would play the emotional wife. Instead, I moved first. I protected myself. I exposed the truth. And I walked away clean. A year later, I sold the Denver house. Moved to a smaller place near the mountains. Rebuilt quietly. New clients. New friends. No joint accounts. No shared passwords. No blind trust. Just peace. Sometimes people ask if I regret taking the money. If I regret cooperating. If I regret ending it the way I did. No. Because the moment I saw that message, can't wait until she's out of the picture, I realized something. I was never out of the picture. I was the only one who saw the whole frame. And when the storm came, I didn't drown. I learned how to swim.